Cool. Hey everyone, it's Devin here with Make Anything, and today we're going to be 3D printing a whole bunch of snowflakes, but probably not in a way that you'd imagine, because we're going to make these snowflakes using a whiteboard and an application called Doodle3D Transform. So, Doodle3D is this web-hosted application that is basically a super simple 3D modeling software that's made to help people get introduced into 3D modeling and 3D printing. This is made for total beginners, so it's understandably limited, and for someone with a lot of modeling experience like me, I felt held back quite a bit. But at the same time, it's got some really neat tools that make it really quick and fun to make 3D models. And today we're going to be using one of those pretty extensively, and that's the image trace feature. The ability to point your phone or tablet at a photograph, take a picture, and then turn that two-dimensional image into a 3D model. So we're going to be using that feature by drawing some snowflakes on this whiteboard and then converting them into 3D models. Should be fun, so let's get right to it. Alright, so I'm really just going to start out by drawing a snowflake on this whiteboard. And I'm using a nice brand new black Expo marker to make sure I get really good contrast. And from there I'm just drawing my snowflake freehand. So I started out by drawing an asterisk, because of course a snowflake has 6 symmetrical points, and then I'm just going to go around building onto it, making sure to do the same thing to every single point. I didn't really use any reference for an actual snowflake. I was kind of just making things up as I went along, but I tried to stay with kind of angular geometric shapes. So there's my first attempt. Let's go ahead and take a photo of it using the Doodle3D Transform app, and it'll bring that image into the canvas. I'll tap on the snowflake and then drag down to increase the selection until I have that whole snowflake selected and convert this into a solid shape. I can also do some tapering, I can twist this whole design, but for what we're doing, we really just want to keep it simple, so I'm just going to do a straight extrusion up and down. It's really that easy, but drawing a perfectly symmetrical snowflake is pretty tough, and I figured it's a little easier to just draw one of the 6 arms and then mirror that around. So that's what I decided to do. I got back on my whiteboard and just started drawing a bunch of different arm designs for potential snowflakes. And this was actually really fun, coming up with all these weird, interesting looking shapes. They kind of look like alien signals or Chinese characters. So as you can see, I made a whole mess of different arm patterns. And once I had a good selection, I opened up that Doodle3D app again, clicked on the camera icon, and snapped a picture. So we'll go with pattern 23 for this one. So I just lined up my shot and made sure it was really well lit. Contrast is pretty much the key with this tool. And then I'm going to zoom in again and tap and drag until I have that whole branch selected. Alright, that looks great, so I'll delete that background image, and now I've just got this one branch. So I'll shrink it down, and then I'm going to line it up with this background grid. Once I've got it nice and vertical, I'll select it and duplicate it, and then flip that copy around 180 degrees. Now I can line those up and connect them in the middle, and I'll actually merge them together with this tool, and now they're basically one single part that I can rotate 2 more times. The reason I connect those 2 branches first is because now I can copy this one part, and it'll automatically rotate around the center. So that looks pretty nice, but I don't really like how the branches are overlapping so much. So I'm going to undo those 2 copies, and I'm going to stretch out the original. Now I'll do the same thing, but these stretched out branches don't touch like the other ones did. For some patterns I do want them to overlap, but in this case I really liked how it looked this way. Before we export this, I'll select all 3 of these bodies and then merge them together. So now we have this one single snowflake, and I'll go ahead and export that once more as an STL. So let's go ahead and fast forward to the point where I did all these snowflakes, and now I'm going to bring them into my slicer, Simplify 3D. Doodle3D actually has options to print directly from their app, but I want to make a few changes to make these snowflakes more consistent, so I'm going to do some work in Simplify 3D here. First of all, I'm going to play around with the scale of these snowflakes, that way I get more variety in their sizes, and I'm also going to adjust their position on the build plate so that I can fit them all into one print. Alright, so this positioning is pretty good, and the next thing we have to deal with is the fact that all these snowflakes are completely random heights now, because I didn't really pay attention to scale in the Doodle3D app. So instead of scaling each snowflake individually to make them all the same height, I'm actually going to open up my process here and go into the advanced settings and have the print stop at 2mm layer height. So now Simplify 3D will basically cut off all the models at 2mm layer height and act as if that's the entire part. My other settings are pretty standard, but I will make it so that each process is only assigned to one snowflake. So I'll just keep duplicating this same process, but I'm going to apply each one to another single snowflake. That way when I prepare this to print, I can use the sequential printing option, which makes it so that each snowflake prints entirely one at a time, rather than the printer going and printing the first layer of every snowflake at once, and then going to the second layer and the third and so forth, which takes longer and can affect the quality of the print. Anyways, that's pretty technical, and when you're starting out, you'll probably just want to print one snowflake at a time anyways, so don't worry about that too much. Here we've got the start of a print, this build plate full of snowflakes, which I'm printing on my CR10 and my CR10S. They both handled these snowflake models really well, and they all printed out quite amazing, and they're pretty fun to watch too, because it's drawing out this intricate pattern on the first layer. After the printer's cooled down, the snowflakes pop off of this glass build plate really easily, and there they are, looking really good. And it's really cool having so many different snowflake models so that all of them really look unique. Now there's a ton of different ways you could display these snowflakes, but my mom had this really cool idea of using a transparent string and kind of hanging them in rows in front of the window. It turned out pretty magical, the way they all independently rotate really slowly and just how they catch the light. These were printed in MatterHacker's white Pro PLA, which is really quite bright and caused a strong reflection in the window. The resulting effect is quite beautiful, and it actually looks like there are more snowflakes than there actually are. I've got to say, for how simple this project was, I think it was totally successful. For one thing, I have now over 30 different snowflakes, each unique and wonderful. Great Christmas decoration for years to come. Not only can I hang them up, but they can also make little stands for a tea light candle or coasters, of course. But what I really loved about this was that it was actually fun to make these. And I enjoy 3D modeling in general, but in a more advanced software, making 30 plus completely unique snowflakes would actually take a bit of time and be quite tedious. But with this whiteboard technique and using Doodle3D Transform, I really enjoyed it. Like I said from the beginning, Doodle3D is a very bare bones application. It's not meant for hardcore modeling. The point is that it's super simple, and it's a great way to really get into 3D modeling and 3D printing with no background experience. So I think it's really great for young kids or people who just aren't so tech savvy. I'll put a link to the Doodle3D site in the description. You can make an account and get started for free using their software. But if you do want to export files for 3D printing, you will have to buy the license for a one-time fee of $30. But like I said, you can try it for free. It's worth giving a shot. If you'd rather just print out the snowflakes that I designed, I'll have them available to download for free, as always, at myminifactory.com. You can download them, print them, and have them up just in time for the holiday season. So that's it for today. Until next time, I'm Devin. This is Make Anything. Don't forget to stay inspired.